with Adventurers Wanted. Hi, everybody! Adventurers Wanted is a monthly talk show all about the Adventurers League, which is Dungeons & Dragons' official play campaign. My name is Lisa Chen. You might know me from writing Dungeons & Dragons adventures. I host a podcast called Behold Her about women and tabletop RPGs. And I also play Mercy on Hellspells on this very channel every Sunday evening. But I also happen to be one of the community managers for the Adventurers League, as is my co-host, Alan. Alan, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm a nerdy guy that does things with dice and sometimes words. I'm one of the community managers for Adventurers League. Lisa has been putting up with my nonsense here for several months now. I've been floating around Wizards organized play for a while. I write the occasional bit of adventure, a little bit of guidance and some lore here and there, Red War stuff, which we're going to talk about later. I've been doing some of that. I'm told I've got some bad echo, which is unfortunate.
Oh no! First time tech stuff, you guys. Thanks for letting us know.
So let me play with those options. But yeah, I'm a huge nerd, and I love growing our community and seeing awesome people do awesome things and grow not only their stories, but the stories they share with people at their tables. And that's what keeps me doing all this.
Yeah, so I imagine that we definitely have a bunch of people who are hardcore Adventurers League fans tuning in, but we also probably have some people who watch the D&D Twitch who don't know what the Adventurers League is. So Alan, how would you describe the Adventurers League to someone who has never heard of it?
Who's never heard of it? Oh, well, let's just say it's a big shared experience. So you can play a game at your dining room table and take that character that you've played and go play at Gen Con, which is, of course, next week. You can take your sum total experience from all of that and go play at your favorite local game shop and then come back and play at your table, your friend's table, or on the bus or train or wherever it is that you play your games. It makes the campaign highly portable, so that you can sit down and play and have a shared experience, have a common set of expectations, so that you can focus on the game and the story rather than having to explain to a DM and your fellow players, like, oh, I got this special shiny item from doing this one thing. I had this DM who was making up some rules. It lowers the barriers and keeps people rolling dice.
Yeah, I totally agree. One of my favorite parts about the Adventurers League is that I get to keep the character that I love and adore and go to any table where they're playing the Adventurers League and meet different adventurers. And then maybe if I go to the same convention the following year, meet that adventurer again as my character. So my character's making friends as I'm making friends. It's pretty cool. I guess it's like sort of like a network of D&D games, and you can play at any of them.
Mm-hmm.
So for the format of Adventurers Wanted, we're thinking we'll start out with some major announcements and news. And probably for those of you who are new to the Adventurers League and thinking of getting on board now, you're coming in during like a really cool transition period where we're making some changes to try and simplify all of the paperwork you used to have to do at the end of an Adventurers League game. And we're trying to adjust our system of rewards so that they fit more styles of play. So the first step in this transition is that it was really important to us that we get drafts of our new rules out to our community so that we can get feedback. So the first set of announcements about that went out yesterday, actually. If you go to our website, dndadventurersleague.org, or if you go to our Twitter, at @DND_ADV League, it is the pinned message on our Twitter right now. But you will find an article that links to the D&D website that explains the changes to our rule system. So I encourage you to read those thoroughly, and maybe even more importantly, read the documents at the end that our fellow admins have spent a lot of time putting together. There are frequently asked questions. Check them out and share feedback for us on our various social channels. Some other cool news, one piece of which was announced yesterday, is that the Adventurers League is opening up some new regions. for content to be created, the Moon Shays and the Border Kingdoms. I personally am pretty new to D&D still. I joined in 5th edition, and so some of these regions are totally new to me. Alan, how would you describe the flavor of these different places?
Well, Adventurous League games originally started in the Moonsea region, sort of like north central Faerun, and as our games have migrated by and large out to the Sword Coast, we've left the CCC program, the Convention Created Content or Community Created Content program in the Moonsea. Well, that program has really, really grown over time, and two of our trusted allies have been granted basically exclusive access to do CCC content, which they generate for their shows and then put up for sale later through DM's Guild. We've granted them some special regions. The Moonshays are being developed by Baldwin Games. And Baldwin Games runs Gen Con and Origins and Winter Fantasy. The Moonshay Isles were actually some of the earliest portions of the Forgotten Realms publishing from many, many years ago. It has very much a Welsh sort of feel to it. So if you really like consonants and Y's and W's, you're in good shape. There's heavy Fey influences. There's a lot of dark mystery stuff that goes on there, and a lot of aquatic themes. All in all, some pretty cool stuff. We also have the Border Kingdoms. The Border Kingdoms are being developed by Alex Kammer of Gamehole Con. That is his core show. Now, he does travel around and see some other events for sure. But Gamehole Con has quickly become a destination event for a lot of people. That's coming up in November. And if you want to see Border Kingdoms action live, like that is really where you're going to want to go. The Border Kingdoms are a collection of many smaller kingdoms and their border disputes, and there's a rich, convoluted history. Now, that said, you don't need to know all the history in order to enjoy the games. In fact, very much the opposite. The history is exactly what you make of it, because really, history is told by the victors, right? Every small particular kingdom has its own special flavor. I know I've worked on a little bit of content for them, some adventures, and we're trying to make sure that everything has its own spark and it stays unique while still having the flavor of the Border Kingdoms, feuding duchies and high-ranking noblemen that have their own agendas. I'm expecting some pretty cool things coming out of that.
These guys are already have a reputation for creating some really cool content, so I cannot wait to check out these new places to explore. If you haven't already, go to the Dungeon Masters Guild in the Adventurers League section. They've each released regional guides, so you can learn more about the regions if you so choose.
Yes.
If you are super excited, I definitely recommend that.
Yeah, each of those guides has a lot of really cool content in it, and if you have questions on that, I mean, feel free to get a hold of the creators of those guides. You can reach out to the admins, but really they're taking the ownership of those regions. So if you have questions about how a particular piece of lore works, I really, really suggest the players get a hold of those individual developers.
Speaking of convention or community-created content, I know you've been really hands-on reviewing CCCs that have been recently released or things that are upcoming. Are there any that stand out to you?
Well, the things that are catching my eye, and there are, to be fair, a lot of submissions. There's a lot of really cool stuff out there, but the two things that are really catching my eye right now, one is the Tarot series. It's themed on the Tarot deck. They are actually producing one adventure for each of the major arcana and each of the cards in there. If you go into DM's Guild and you simply search for Tarot, you will see those. They're planning, I want to say it's like a 21-part series all in all, so spanning multiple tiers, lots of play opportunities. They have a pretty inventive way of delivering that content, and the cover art's pretty eye-catching too. But really, the big thing that has my attention right now, I made a post about this a little while ago, a couple weeks back, and we're going to be talking more about it here over the next few weeks, but the Red War. Now, the Red War is a big epic event that we launched at Origins here over the summer. And oh my gosh, there's some pretty cool stuff. So we've opened up the Red War to CCC development, meaning that the epic is sort of the umbrella. Like, these are the major events that are taking place. And because the Red War is spinning out of player-instigated actions. And let's be honest, we didn't really intend to write an epic about Théas taking over Mulmaster.
For the folks in the chat, we should back it up a little bit and explain what exactly the Red Boar is. So basically, one member of the community, his character's name, we'll give a shout out to Terry Tanner, decided he didn't really like what the Red Wizards were doing in Mulmaster and started all of this faction discussions about what exactly the factions felt about it and what they wanted to do. And people ran with this and created Facebook groups, Discord channels, and role-played their hearts out. And we created an entire multi-table, interactive, epic adventure to address that.
Yes. There was a lot of really cool stuff, and David Hopkins was the guy who was playing Terry Tanner. He sort of spearheaded the whole thing. Had a lot of really cool communication with him and several other folks that were taking their faction backgrounds into consideration, like why their factions want to get involved in Mulmaster and what that meant for the world. And really, that's what inspired us to do the epic. But when we looked at it, we realized this needed to be bigger. So we crafted the epic to have this sort of umbrella feel. And I actually, after working with the rest of the admins and with Chris Lindsay, we decided to reach out to some of the core instigators, and we invited them to help launch the first wave of Red War themed CCC. So with the epic as the backdrop, these designers are actually going to be zooming in on impactful moments that they wanted to explore during that event. So they can drive their faction goals. They can go for very specific events. So, when you have a big war going on, when you have this huge citywide fight, there's an opportunity, say, for the Zentarum to realize, hey, this merchant's going to be leaving their vault unguarded. I'm going to go there and I'm going to get rich, right? And they want to send their operatives in. So we've actually been working with David Hopkins, Garrett, Cologne. We've got Kalani, Fenley Jones, Ben Heisler, and there are a bunch of other people who are chomping at the bit to get started as well. But they are going to be our first wave of developers in doing those zoomed-in sort of events. I've seen the concepts. I've been working with them on like the adventure rollout, and over the next few months, there are going to be some really cool roleplay and combat stuff that they want to explore, and it will help them tell their part of the story.
That is super cool. So aside from like writing CCCs for the Red War, is there anything that, in thinking about what content you'd like to spotlight on Adventurers Wanted, like what would make someone's content stand out to you or particularly impress you?
So the things that I look for as a DM, I want to see content that challenges me. That's not just a standard A to B to C storytelling. I want to see something that's immersive and encourages players to do big hero things. I want to see them, ride the chandelier across the room while swinging swords. I want them to have those abilities. So instead of just a tavern map, like what are the cool elements within your tavern, within your area? From a story perspective, is your history immersive? Is it necessary for the flow of the story? Are there ample role-play opportunities to bypass other challenges? So if someone knows a bit of lore, can that be effectively called out in the text so that instead of fighting your way past the troll, maybe you realize that this troll has been here for hundreds of years and it's cursed to be here by some old wizard? Is there an engaging way for players to be super creative and really challenge the definition of what is Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, we talk a lot, at least internally, about like the different pillars of play and different ways you can play a D&D adventure. So if adventures are building that in, that's really cool and allows creativity with the players.
Yes.
All right, so before we move on to chatting with our guest, who's very patiently waiting, I wanted to make sure I called out a few events that are coming out over the next month. And most, if not all of these, I actually pulled from our convention map, which is at dndadventuresleague.org in like the Find an Event section. Anybody who organizes an event can go onto that map and add their event. So if you're not on there, I encourage you to do that. But this weekend, we actually have a few cool events happening in Scarborough, Ontario. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Bridlewood Mall is an event called Shield Meet, and it's a free event, and they'll be having a bunch of different Adventurers League adventures going on. So if you are in Ontario near Scarborough, look up Shield Meet. If you're near me, in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania, they are having an epic game day where they are playing Drums of the Dead. That is tomorrow at noon. It goes till 6 p.m., and that's at Showcase Comics in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. So I'd look that up. And then a few events that are coming up later in August. I pulled out SquirrelCon, which is happening at Crazy Squirrel Game Store in Fresno, California, August 17th to 19th. I just love that it's called SquirrelCon. But also, it looks like they will have the Red War Epic, as well as a trilogy of con-created content just for them. So that sounds super fun. Check them out. And then a large event that, oh my goodness, has so much going on, August 31st to September 3rd in Sioux City, Nebraska, at the Delta Hotel and Conference Center. That is TriCon. And it sounds like they are going to have a new epic, a new open, lots of really cool stuff there. And even if you're not into the Adventurers League, they've got a lot of board games and other really cool things happening. Oh, child peace. So those events are coming up. If you want your event spotlighted on Adventurers Wanted, would love to give you a shout out. Please make sure you are on our convention map. Again, that is at dndadventurersleague.org is where you can find the link. All right. So we have waiting in the wings a organizer from Montreal, Matt Peterson, who has organized the Adventurers League for the Festival du Magique in Montreal, as well as more recently the Montreal Comic Con. And a bunch of us admins were invited out. The community there is just doing so many cool things. Matt is just one of their amazing organizers, and all of the players I met were just some of the most fun, sweetest human beings in the world. So really excited to be chatting with Matt about all the different things he is doing. And Matt, if you are waiting in the wings, we will transition.
Yeah, hello.
Yay!
Hello.
Hi, Matt.
Yeah, cool. Hey, just by the way, I saw some comments while your baby builder or goblin, I don't know what, you were taking care of it. We couldn't see Lisa speaking because we just saw like your background. And people also wrote like, oh, we don't see Lisa anymore. So maybe next time you mute your thing when you go out. A little comment I see.
That's weird. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll figure out all of those things.
Yeah, cool.
But
yeah, cool.
yeah,
Thank you for having
Matt.
me today.
Before we talk about all of the other amazing things that you do and how you got involved with the Adventurers League, I have got to talk about the recent epic you guys threw outdoors. And
Yeah.
my face is going to disappear for a second because I actually have some really cool pictures that Steve Bissonnette from Montreal shared with me. Of this outdoor epic that they threw. Matt, can you tell us a little more about this?
Yeah, it's a really cool event. First, we got surprised by like how cool it ended up being. But I must first tell I did not much do a lot for that epic because the weeks before I was mostly taking care of Comic-Con and then moving out of Montreal and stuff. So first, I just want to like give a big shout out to other people from Montreal, François Sénécal, Marc-André Fecteau, Guillaume Garand-Rousseau, and also two people, like we're three main organizers for Epic stuff, which are me, Alex Romero, and Amélie Lamarche. So those were the main team that really put it all together, and also thanks to like every DM and every Come2King that made this event really a cool event. And it's just over the year we've been doing more and more event. At first, shops epics were being made in shops, and then the owner of a shop called l'Expédition, Guillaume, at the Festival de Magic de Montréal last year, and for the second year, last March, he wanted to add some D&D to it. So he approached me because he saw I was like, maybe I had the drive to like take charge of the D&D stuff. So that's what we did, and we got you, Lisa, and Bill over in Montreal. It was a big success. All the community members were really happy with that, and it gave a lot of like visibility to AL Montreal. So after that, it's a big Montreal in the summer. It's like festival after festival all of the time, and there's that festival called Le Mondial des Jeux. So they wanted to have some D&D for the opening of that festival, which is outside in the show district, the Quartier du Spectacle. And we said like, oh, you want us to organize an epic outdoor with beers and stuff among people, among a big festival? So we definitely were in for that. So the people I mentioned took care of it, and it ended up being a really cool event. And yeah, there were us, but it was in a festival, so a lot of newcomers were passing by. So during the game, I had to pause a lot just to stand up and try to like recruit new players. Speak like people, what are you doing? Like, we're playing D&D. Like, oh, how much is there? How come is there that many tables? So we end up like explaining stuff, and I hope to see them back the game soon. But anyway, that was really cool. It gave a lot of great visibility to D&D. To Adventures League, and as you saw the picture that some of us already published on the Facebook page, I was like really impressed. Like, we had this full stage with like lights and stuff where the admins could be on the stage with mics. It was really a cool setup that we had. And yeah, the conclusion is that we cannot wait for next year to do another one at the same spot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I remember, first of all, I love looking at the pictures. It looks like a freaking, like a music festival, but it's D&D. How cool is that?
Yeah, and it's just like it was the open. It's a 7 or 10 days festival, something like that. All about games. So you have tabletop games. There's some kind of food truck stuff, but it's for throwing axes. It's like a big, I don't know in English, a fête foraine, a big place where you can just play all kind of games, and the access is free, but some event you got to pay. So yeah, it was like really, really beautiful. Beautiful stuff.
I know when we were chatting about it, when I was freaking out when you guys were posting in the Montreal group about it, you mentioned that there were some really unique challenges to playing D&D outdoors, and that the organizers had thought of some really clever solutions.
Yeah, because you never know how much it will win. So like all the paper can blow away. So usually we do that for epics. We recreate the stat blocks per fight. So you have fight 1, and we collect all the stat blocks from that fight in a single PDF. So it's more easy for the DM to like you less get lost in your paper. But they made those, and they stick those inside DM stream. So when you had your fight coming, you just pick up your DM stream with all the stuff already like sticked on the DM screen. That was an idea. And I think the 2 guys I mentioned before, Guillaume and François, like 2 days before, were just like working on that. Also, minis can fly away. So we had we use like washer tokens in the initiative tracker. Some people use like little tents they put on the DM screen, but it doesn't work outside. You don't know how much it will win. So still Guillaume, he mentioned using like a sleeve for magic cards. So and you put a card in it, so it's more heavy, and with a washable marker, a wetty erase marker, right? And then the name of the player, and so it's more heavy and it stands still. So there's a lot of thing to think about, mostly because of the wind. So it was a little bit more organization for them, and they did like really great, and everyone had a good time with there. Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like the idea of outdoor D&D sounds like so much fun, but there's so much that could go wrong with one big gust of wind. So all of those little details, those are great tips if someone else wants to try it.
And we had also we had a cancellation date. Like if a bad weather, the backup plan would be the next Wednesday, 25th, in case there's bad weather, the 17th. So you also have to have this in head. And then people will come, oh, I cannot come on the 17th, but if I come on the 25th, do I still register now or not? So when the registration also, sometimes registration by itself can be a job to handle, but this was maybe a little bit more. But we were lucky that it all happened on 17 and we had to delay, but it's another thing also when you're outside. We don't know if the weather will be on your side or not. Yeah. But it was.
Coffee break.
So, I know that you were a little bit less hands-on for this event, although you were able to attend, but you organize a bunch of other events in Montreal. Are there any challenges that have come up as you've grown as an organizer? I know one thing really unique to Montreal is you guys are dealing with a multilingual situation, which can complicate things.
Yeah. They started doing epics during season 5, but I joined AL like a year and a half ago. So by season 6, something like that. So I don't know the first what they did, but at some point when I was in, the idea came out to. Well, we already translate all the box text and the point form text for the DM French, or sometimes where you're good enough to read English, but to like on the spot translate what is English and French can be like the brain exercise a bit rough. So we translated this so it can be more fluent and more immersive. You just like speak French. So we translated the box text of the epic, at least. And at some point we thought, because some people, most are bilingual, some only speak English, some only speak French. And we ended up using more English than French, but at some point for an epic, I think it was Peril at the Port, we decided to the admin announcement to make them both English and French. And by the end, the announcement, out of the 3 hours we have, we ended up making like nearly 1 hour of announcement, because there's that Pelican Jack is saying blah 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 in English, then saying blah 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 in French, and we were losing a lot of time over there. So for the other event, we reverted back to only English, and trying to have DM that are good enough bilingual with the player only speaking French at table so they can translate. Also, we have some kids coming in that are not quite good enough in English yet to get it. So for Drums of the Dead, that was where you came in Montreal at Festival de Magic, I was doing some kind of like 1 sentence in English, 2 in French and stuff, and going back and forth. So you have to decide, because like doing 2 announcement in the 2 languages is taking so much time. So you have to decide something that you don't want the French speaking player to say, oh my God, that's not for me. I didn't understand what was happening, to not come back. So you have to have rely on good DM that that will take care of the French speaking person.
Yeah, and pursuant to that, when you brought me out there for Montreal Comic Con recently, there was a really cool community of players there where if I was talking about something as a DM and it was because my French is really bad, right? Let's be honest. If I was saying something in English and one of the players didn't quite understand it, another player would lean over and just shoulder to shoulder real quick, translate kind of on the fly right there. That was an awesome thing to see, because that was, to be honest, an intimidating factor for me going to visit you guys.
Yeah. Everyone like Bill, Lisa were like, are we gonna be okay in English and stuff? And because that's it. We have the community is really cool in Montreal. Like, and it's funny because since I started playing AL, I never used the word community as much like in my life, but because it's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's the little Montreal community, but then I started going at Origins and BigCon, and there's like this biggest community. Mm-hmm. I realized on the Facebook page or stuff that all those people that speak together, they all have seen each other a few times. It's like all about like helping people. We all want to have fun in the end, so that's it. People will translate a little thing quickly. No one will be pissed because someone didn't understand something in French or English. Who will translate in. It's really cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, absolutely.
So aside from navigating the complications of having a multilingual community, I know that just in the year and a half that you've gotten involved, you've started organizing a lot more, and even encouraging people to travel to other big events here in the States. You DM'd for Baldwin Games, and I heard you did like such an amazing job with that. What sort of lessons along the road would you share with the folks watching?
I definitely recommend going to cons if you sometimes not doesn't have to be like Origin or Gen Con but small con. If there's a small con not so far away, you like 3-4 guys, you like carpool on the way, because I realized that in the same community people tend to have the same DM tricks, because you learn from the DM you play from, and you learn from the player you play with. But at some point, in Montreal, we all play MDM with the same people. My first example I had that is when you, Lisa, and Bill came in, and you used those flashcard stuff with like instead of using the tens here in Montreal, most people use the tens. Yeah. But the flashcard initiative, I never saw that in Montreal, and when I started doing that, after people are saying, "Oh, you're doing the Bill Benham technique now." It was the first time we saw that. Then Alan is doing the same thing, and Claire is doing the same thing. So yeah, and at Origin, I played for great DM, and what's really cool is to see like the infinite possibility of ways to do stuff and to like. Stuff, and so you really learn a lot, and again you really make cool friends, because like it's like D&D is all about like people coming in together and wanting to like have fun, but you can have this in the scale of 20 people on a Friday night event, or in the scale of like Origins of like hundreds of people just coming in and everyone is super friendly. So it's really a special vibe, a cool vibe. So yeah, I think it will be bigger for your player side, for your DM side, and all this too. You learn a lot by going to con, and sometimes there's con not so far from your place. So yeah.
Any cool tips or tricks that you oversaw when you visit us over here at Origins?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, from an organizer point of view, when I did Comic-Con, we're three, with Amélie Lamarche, Alex Romero, and me, were the three people like mostly organizing the stuff, and we try to do everything during the event and before the event and after the event. And I have a quick chat with Dave Chris from Baldwin Game, who told me like that there's no shame in delegating stuff. So what I've learned from going to Origin and speaking a bit with Dave, Chris, and what I would like to share to everyone that would start to make event or stuff is like, the days before the event, you work hard. You do everything you can to make sure that during the event you don't have anything to do other else than be there and patch up in case of emergency. That's the same thing Alan Patrick told me. Also, one of his events he made, he was so sick he couldn't like do much on the first day, but he had so much preparation that it doesn't matter because everyone know what to do. So delegate if you want to be. And yeah, I should have delegate more in Comic-Con. And like another like tricks I learned from Origin is when I saw Dave Chris, like the big boss during the event, that's just like there chilling, but all these people working. It's just there's no shame in delegating. It's a community. So you have to rely on your people and share this stuff because you will end up tired.
It's a management skill, man. It crops up over time, and you'll refine it and get better and better, and eventually people will be coming to you looking for these same tips and insights. So we learn from the people around us, and we got to give that feedback back to the community as well, just like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about building community, and then you find that you can rely on your community as well because they love the league and the game as much and are bringing their own skill sets.
Yep.
Over your time at the Adventurers League, Matt, is there anything you've noticed as the community's grown that has either surprised you, or are there ways the community has changed as it's grown?
Lisa asking the hard
I
questions.
stumped you.
Yeah, but no, it's quite interesting because I just moved out from Montreal in a city that's 1.5 hours away from there, and it's called Trois-Rivières. And so the first thing I did when I came in and I found a shop and I said I'm gonna start doing some AL here, and the boss was like, cool, because I'm having some like requests here and there, but no one wants to DM. And the first game I did, I was really surprised how playing with people that are used in AL and people who are not used in AL, they don't play quite the same. We did a 1 hour mini adventure, and we did it in like 4 hours because people are like, not playing quite the same way. But it's
for different things. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and also some people sometimes complain about like I wish this was a bit more like that in the AL or a bit more like that in the AL. But what I found out about starting this over there is that people like why shouldn't we do both? I think everything should do both. Playing AL is something cool because you get to meet people and your character evolve over different table. But people should definitely keep doing some homebrew to do whatever they want in their homebrew. So anyway, I think the brain works differently in this different contexts, and people, yeah. I don't know if it answered the question, but what changed over the years? Yeah, well, maybe even in my way of playing D&D, it changed since I play AL. But sometimes playing a homebrew game with just with no DM reward at the end, oh my god, but you just play for the fun because the real reward is the fun you get out of it, right? So I think I encourage people playing both, maybe, so your brain keeps stimulated in two totally different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like there's so many different ways to enjoy D&D, to so many different styles of play. I mean, we talk online, there's a lot of discussion about things like AL versus the style of streamed games where it's very story driven and you're maybe not always on top of the rules because you've just got to keep the story moving forward. And I mean, I just want people to play D&D. I love the Adventurers League because I feel like for a lot of people, that is their introduction to actually sitting down and playing D&D. Like, maybe they watched a streamed show and that got them really interested in wanting to play, but when it comes to actually playing, I know when I was organizing my weekly game night at my store, so many people would come in and say, I've watched Critical Role, I've watched Dice Camera Action, it looks so fun, but I have no idea how to play and none of my friends know how to play, so they come to Adventures League to learn.
Yeah.
Let's see. So as we wind down our spotlight on you, Matt, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that is important to you to share with us, share with the people watching, share with anyone? Oh, no, go ahead.
Well, it's my time now to say that something is coming soon, but we have 2 events we're working on right now in Montreal, one during this year, maybe in fall, another one the next summer, that I think will be pretty unique and might be pretty cool also. And people from like not just Montreal could be easily able to join in our like 2 Little Crazy project. So I want to say to the people, well, from our player in Montreal, but for other player near Montreal, like you in New York or like not so far away, stay tuned because we have a cool event coming this October, November, and another super cool event. Well, my definition of cool, maybe people won't find that cool, but I think it would be cool next summer.
I'm looking forward to your event next summer, if it's the one I'm thinking of.
I wish we could say more.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, but and also well, we are doing some epics, so for our player in Montreal, but also people around like I don't know, Nova Scotia, Ontario, Massachusetts. We are doing Mallmaster Undone, August 22, 23rd. And 1 month later, end of September, we're doing Red War. So we're doing some bit of a chronology here. So it might be worth the ride for some people. It's 2 days event, plus we are doing some games in the day. And next big festival, when I hope it will be our first anniversary meeting with Lisa. I hope you'll be able to do it again this year. It's Festival de Magic. Somewhere in February or beginning of March, so I'm not quite sure yet because we have to wait because it's a lot of Magic the Gathering also, so we don't want to put it the same weekend that there's a grand tournament of Magic, but like end February, beginning of March, there's another event and some admins will come over, and we'll be doing the Open also in Montreal.
Awesome.
So that's it. Yeah,
that's really cool. I love you guys. Everyone who is an organizer who's listening should definitely check out what Montreal is doing. I just feel like you guys have this really unique way of looking at what an event could be. Like, it's not just running a weekend of modules, but there are some different, more immersive, more thoughtful ways of approaching event organizing, and I find it really refreshing. So thank you for sharing that with us, Matt.
It's a lot of good creativity coming out of your area, man. That's really, really cool. I love it.
Nice, thanks.
Okay. Any last questions for Matt Allen?
Sure, I have one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
If you were given the option of choosing one color of dragon, and you would be that color of dragon forever, what color of dragon would you be?
Alan's asking the really important questions.
It's true.
I think Black Dragon, because they have the swim speed, right?
Yeah, they live in swamps.
yeah. Because like my main character was like a sea elf, a water genasi, so a dragon that would have a swim speed would definitely like be my so Black Dragon.
Nice.
And then it's also the first dragon I've ever met playing Forge of Fury, so it's like I'm kind of related with. I have a bond now with.
So there's some history there.
Yeah.
Right on. Excellent. Good choice.
Awesome. And on that note, we will bid adieu to Matt. Thank you so much for joining us on the first episode of Adventurers Wanted.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. All right. So, I wanted to talk about before we say goodbye at Adventurers Wanted. Alan, you have been doing a series of articles called Behind the Screen.
Yes.
Could you tell everyone watching who hasn't read those a little bit about what the theme of those articles is, and then maybe if there's one or two that you definitely recommend people checking out?
Sure. So behind the screen, it's something I wanted to do for a while now, and due to life stuff, it really hasn't been in the cards. We had a little one a while back, and toddlers take a lot of free time. But we're getting to a point now where I can actually start doing some of these side projects. And behind the screen is something that is very near and dear to my heart. We keep telling people that there are different ways to interpret content, different ways to run games. We want to talk about transparency, and we want people to be as involved in the campaign as we, the admin team, are. So this series of articles comes out every Friday. It's going to talk about one topic per week. And now as we build towards Season 8, we're going to see a heavy emphasis on some of the rules decisions that we're making, why we're making those, and what the intended impact is. And it's a chance for people to, well, as the title suggests, look behind the DM screen with to see what's going on in our brains, because effectively the six of us, we're the global DMs for this whole crazy campaign, right? There's a really, really big one coming up. August 9th is our date for the faction discussion, where we're going to talk about some lore perspective as well as some mechanical perspective on why we're doing some of the faction adjustments going forward into Season 8, the background adjustments and things like that. I would really, really like people to just kind of keep an eye on the general articles as they come out, because we're going to be talking about more than just mechanics. I'm going to actually kind of share like how I interpret certain encounters and some things that I do to keep my games lively and keep my players on their toes. For example, most of my players have been with me for a very long time for my home game. But occasionally I get a new person and they don't know just how to get into D&D, because it's not just that they're new to the group. They're brand new to D&D. So how do I mix very experienced players that have a lot of play knowledge and they've got a lot of companionship already built amongst them, and how do I get them to incorporate this new person while still staying within the confines of the game?
Very cool. Is there a particular article that you've published on dndadventuresleague.org already that you're particularly passionate about?
Well, ones that I'm particularly passionate about, or ones that the player base is particularly passionate about?
Maybe one of each.
All right. Well, if you bring up the site, I've got a pretty common naming convention for these, and they're generally all going to be entitled "In Which We Talk About," and then whatever our topic is. I think one of the ones that I'm happiest with at this point, and it's still pretty new, is "In Which We Talk About Volos Guide to Monsters." Sometimes a DM needs to take a look at statements that they've made and rulings they've made as their campaign has gone on, and they realize that the intention of the ruling maybe wasn't as well received as we had hoped, or maybe it just didn't fit into the ongoing narrative as well as we had hoped. And Volos Guide to Monsters, that article actually hit that right on the head. We want people to be empowered in their stories. So what we've done is we've actually said that, hey, there's this old guidance where if you choose one of the monstrous races, you're going to have to be in these specific factions. And the narrative behind that was that those factions are sort of vouching for that character's reason to be out in the world, right? If you play a goblin, what protection does a goblin have if they walk into a tavern in Waterdeep?
Yeah, you've got a big faction tabard saying, yes, please don't stab me.
Right, exactly. But we want to tear down some of those story barriers, and we want people to play basically the way they want to play, right? So we've actually gone and lifted that. If you choose a monstrous race out of Volos Guide to Monsters, awesome, good for you. You're welcome to join whatever faction you want, or no faction, if that's how you want to take it. That one got a lot of community spin, not a whole lot of detractors in that one. But for the most part, people were like, yeah, why wasn't this done from the beginning? And really, it's because we had a different story viewpoint that we wanted to pursue early on. And you know what? It just didn't work out. So moving forward, that is no longer a thing.
Well, I like to think that the Forgotten Realms got just a lot more accepting and open-minded about monstrous
Yes.
races as time passed.
Yes, that is the way I'd really like to take that. The other article that I put out, one of the other ones, is in which we talk about documentation. Um, this has been a contested topic for a while. Some people really like rules heavy, very crunchy play campaigns. They like to know exactly what their operational parameters are. And really, for Adventurers League stuff, what we want to get to is we actually want to strip down the amount of documentation we have. We want to more effectively, I don't want to say define, but we want to scope what DM empowerment actually means. And that's where we're going to be going with Season 8 and beyond with our documentation. We're going to be more effectively putting the words where people need them rather than having them spread out in a whole bunch of places and fragmented like we have been. It's a big project, but for example, looking at bringing in FAQ entries out of these various seasonal docs and things that people are having a hard time finding, and actually putting it into the content catalog, revising how we're presenting our player's guide and our DM's guide. We want people to focus on the story and to focus on the game rather than focus on the ruling framework. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm like the newbie admin for folks who aren't familiar. I joined this year, but I definitely see behind the scenes that all of the administrators, especially Alan, are constantly thinking about how can we make AL as easy as possible for people to play. How can we make our resources just easy and approachable? And it's tough because there's a lot of rules, but we're figuring out ways to just make them easier to digest and put the information where people would naturally look for it.
I want the adventure content to be the challenge, not the pile of paperwork. In fact, I want the pile of paperwork to be pretty much gone, and that's where we're trending.
Yes, more adventures.
Yes.
All right, so as we start to wrap up, it is Gary Gygax Day, which is kismet for starting Adventurers Wanted and premiering it. So happy Founders Day, everybody. For those who play the Adventurers League or thinking of starting up this weekend, we just want to give all of you inspiration for any games that you play this weekend. So in honor of Founders Day, I suppose you guys all have admin inspiration.
Yes.
From us. So thank you for watching Adventurers Wanted.
Use it as currency. Go do big heroic things.
Yes, do something amazing.
And then share your stories, because I love reading those.
Yeah. Do you have any last words, Alan, that my obsessive show notes didn't cover that you wanted to share with folks watching?
The biggest thing that I have is it's the same way I finish up a lot of other gaming industry discussions is, no matter what game you play, who you play it with, endeavor to leave that game better than you entered it. Help people understand and share your joy, because that is infectious. And it's the one infection I can really get behind.
Words of wisdom from Alan. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the first Adventurers Wanted. I did get some notes, a few little sound issues or tech issues. We will figure those out as we move forward. So this is a monthly show on the fourth Friday of every month at 11 a.m. Pacific time. So we will see you guys again in late August. And I guess until then, happy adventuring, everybody. Bye.
Bye.